Hello and welcome to another episode on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. And as you can see on the screen, I'm joined by a special guest, Sam from Undiluted Media. Sam, how's it going, bro?
I'm good, bro, man. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, before we jumped on, it's been a minute, but I'm happy to be back.
Yeah.
Always love chopping up with you. And yeah, we've got a big game on Sunday. So it'd be good to just talk about all things City and Liverpool and just talk about what's going to happen in the game. So let's do it, man. I'm good to be on here again, man.
Let's do it, man. Sam's a big Man City fan, so it's only right I've got someone else on the show. Otherwise, it'll just be one tone in terms of what we're talking about the game. But, everyone's talking about AJ and Frost and Gone as the big heavyweight clash coming up. But for me, this is the big heavyweight clash coming up this Sunday. Now, in terms of your thoughts on... Huh?
So I like that build-up. You talk about the big boxing match that's going on Friday. This is the other main event. You get it? So
this is the one. We'll talk about the boxing later as well. But yeah, this is the one that I know me and you've been looking forward to for quite a while. Now, in terms of the season, what are your thoughts of the season? Because I think everyone's predicted Man City to kind of blow everyone away due to the number of titles they won over the year. But how have you assessed the performance of the team? Have you think they've actually improved, or have you think they've digressed a little bit? Because obviously there was a lot of players that were sold last year. What's your mood in terms of how City have done this so far this season?
I think this season so far it's been a bit stop-start. There was a period over a month where we were playing well, we weren't finishing off the games and not getting results. And in that period of time, we had 4 draws. So it was like we drew against Liverpool at home. We should really have won that game. Drew against Spurs at home. Should have really have won that game. Drew against Chelsea. Should have really have won that game. So that's 6 points that we dropped in it. And I just think, we've been a bit inconsistent, but that's what's expected when you've done something monumental as winning a treble. Is the hunger still there? Like you said, Gundogan's gone, who's a leader. Mahrez has gone. That was a big time player. A few other players have left that had like importance in the team in it. And I think we're just trying to, bed it in. And, Stones hasn't been fully fit. And in terms of the way Pep wants to play, and we're going to speak about this later, Stones is very important and pivotal part of that cog of how the transition from defense to midfield. So I would say in terms of our season so far, I would say it's been a 6.5. The last 2 months since December, I think we've been on form. Look, we're unbeaten in 22. I think we've won 18, drawn 3. So that's not bad. Like, that's great. Most teams would love that. Champions League, we've won 10 games in a row. So I think now we're at the right time picking it up. De Bruyne's come back to full fitness. Haaland's coming back to full fitness. Foden, the original star boy, stepping up now. So I think we're at that, crunch time of the season where City generally pick up and start winning. And we've got we've got a big 2 weeks coming up now. We got Liverpool away, which always is tricky going to Anfield. Again, we're going to speak about that more. And then the following week, we got Arsenal at home where we need to get that dub. So to answer a question, I say so far it's been like a 6.5. We could have done better, but in terms of the season we had last season and players that we've missed and where we're coming in, I think to be 1 point behind Liverpool, where we should really be ahead, but 1 point's not too bad.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think if I asked another Man City fan, they probably would give me a completely different point of view, because obviously you're winning a lot of games. You're in momentum right now, but I think a lot of fans have short-term memory where they see what's happened good recently, but they've forgotten about how it was early in the season. Because I think since your return from the Club World Cup, I feel like you guys have been on a run. I don't think you've dropped that many points since you returned. So you've been in great form in the Premier League. Obviously, that's reflected in the Champions League as well. So you mentioned Haaland earlier on. What have you made of his form this season? Like, I think in the last few weeks, it's been a slight concern as he hasn't been hitting sort of all cylinders like last season. Or would you say that because of the expectations now, they're too high because of the standards that he set? Are we being sort of disingenuous in terms of saying, oh, he's not actually doing that bad, but he's actually still scoring goals, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think, look, people always gonna look back to what he did last season, which was a phenomenal
Yeah,
first season. Do you know what I mean? Scoring 36 goals in the league, got over like 52 goals at all comps, which is great. But then I think what we have to realize is Haaland's a great player, but his bread and butter is goal scoring, and
yeah,
his style of play, he needs that supply. And for majority of the season, we had De Bruyne out, who generally is his first thing. He looks up and it's a forward pass. But
yeah,
we're saying Alvarez in the number 10 that doesn't really understand that. We had, as much as I love Bernardo Silva, he's changed his game from when he first started. He's more of a controller, sideways passes, dictating.
yeah,
He's like the conductor, the orchestrator. He's just conducting it. And I think that kind of hindered Haaland's game. But also, there is some blame on Haaland where he was this season for sure. He's missed a lot of chances that he was normally putting away. So again, in terms of Haaland, I'll give him a 6.5. Look, he was out for like what 6-7 weeks, and he's still the top goal
yeah,
scorer. So it just shows like what he's been doing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And the last couple of games, he's got back onto form little by little. Again, still missed some chances, but it's expected when you've been out, for 6 to 8 weeks. So just getting his match fitness back. So I think Haaland's had a good season, but again, it's just what we're comparing to him last season, that he was
yeah,
a goal machine, hat tricks on hat tricks on hat tricks. But then
yeah,
we're not taking into consideration that the person that kind of benefits the most is
yeah.
Haaland from having KDB, and KDB's missed most of the season, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a key point there, because I feel like people kind of forget in terms of the impact of last season as well, because you guys played a lot of games. Obviously, you went on to win the treble. That still has a psychological effect when you start the new season as well. And then plus, when you've got Kevin De Bruyne that was out for about 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
and he was the talisman of your team. He was the one that was setting him up for most of his goals. So you missed that sort of like key ingredient in midfield. But I feel like during Kevin De Bruyne's absence, one boy has definitely stepped up, and that's Phil Foden. So talk to me about Phil Foden, because for me, he's been your best player by a country.
For sure. And the thing is, like, with Foden, it's like everyone says Foden needs to play in that number 10, which I believe, but I think the best way you get the best way to get the best out of Foden is basically just giving him a free role where he can drift from the left, in the middle, to the right, and he does what he does. And I think he's just stepping up. And one thing I always said about Foden, he's got the talents, immense talent, great skill set, but he needs to improve on the finishing and, taking those one-on-one chances, because every time you would see Foden, he'll be in those chances and it's like 50-50, is he going to score? Whereas now, he's getting in those Gundo positions where he's coming late into the box and getting those tap-ins and getting those little cheeky goals where it's not about, okay, they need to be spectacular, but it's breaking the deadlock against, a Brentford, which is a tough team. It's been our bogey team and stuff like that. He did it against Everton. He brought us back into the game. It did it against Man United last week. And he's just stepping up and showing that he's really the real deal. And I just think I'm not going to do that Rio Ferdinand situation where he's world-class or not. But I think he's got the talent to be world-class, but he needs to just be consistent. And look, Ozzie, Ball, when we talk about world-class, it's about doing it for a long period of time and being consistent in it. So we can't just say because he's done it for the last 10 games or last 15 games, he's world-class. Yes, he's a world-class talent, but at the moment, he's a very good player and he's performing out of his socks. So kudos to him, man.
No, that's a fair point as well. I think with Foden, the only thing with Foden, because I know the comparison's always Foden and Saka, but the thing is, Foden's been doing it for a number of years. So if someone did want to label him as world class, it's understandable. But I get your point, because we've grown up watching football where you label someone as world class, they've been doing it for year in, year out.
A long time.
For a long time. It's not like a brief spell here and there, because everyone can have some sort of like a purple patch within their career. But if you've been doing it through sort of like a number of years and through longevity as well, that's when you're a top player. And doing that in different clubs as well, it's kind of like an added bonus as well, that you're able to adapt in different surroundings. So no, I think Foden definitely for me, I'll say is a young player of the year shout, maybe even player of the year. I think that's how impactful he's been this season. We mentioned it earlier on in terms of Pep selling the likes of Gundogan, Mahrez, and Palmer. Do you think he'll regret selling these players? Because I feel like looking at your overall squad, I don't think it's as strong as what people may make it seem to be. Because I don't feel like there's a lot of game changes. And when, for example, when Rodri was suspended, I could see the team was just not gelling the same way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the squad has weakened, or do you feel like Pep has got a squad that are very much adaptable to different systems and different formations now?
So that's a very good question. And in regards to that, I look at it in a sense of at the present, we've regressed because of the experience that we've lost. But in terms of like players that he's brought in terms of potential and a different style of play, I do like it because when you think of Pep's team, everybody thinks, okay, cool. Pep's team is pass first, keeping possession, dictating the play, which it is. But with the three signings that he bought this year, Vardio, Nunes, even Doku and Kovacic, they're all ball carriers, and it gives a different layer to the game. So if you're getting pressed high up and you've got someone like a Doku or Nunes on the ball, and they can just turn someone and they can carry the ball, and with that ball progression, they can take out 3 or 4 players. That just opens up the space for the other players, whether it's a Doku, whether it's a De Bruyne, whether it's a Foden or a Haaland. So I think short term we might have regressed just based on experience, but I think long term it's just adding a different feather to Pep's cap in terms of when you're playing against different teams, how you can kind of set up. And I think this is, what we've seen. And I think these type of ball carrying players are especially for teams like when we're playing teams like Liverpool, where Liverpool like to press high. There's a lot of intensity. And if they press high and we're able to, break the press, and then with one turn, you've got 3 or 4 ball carriers, whether that's Kovacic, Nunes, or Doku, you've taken out the midfield and you're already in the opponent's final third. So I think these type of ball playing or ball progressive players are more so for these bigger games where you need that just a little bit of difference, because everyone's playing this systematic same style football where you want the box midfield, you want to control the midfield, and sometimes it's just playing 3D chess, isn't it? He will show people this is what you do, inverted fullbacks. We see Zinchenko doing it. We see Pep doing it with Trent, and then Pep said, you know what? I'm going to stop doing it from the fullback. I'm going to get Stones to do it, create the box with the midfield so he can transition easy back into the centre back. And then you can see with a just different style of play. So I think to answer your question, currently we've kind of regressed, but for moving forward, I think we're in good stead. And also, as you know, a lot of players, when they come to this Pep system, it generally takes them a year to adjust anyway. So next season, we'll start seeing whether Nunes or Doku are really ready to play Pep ball and stuff.
Yeah, it's similar to when Liverpool sign players under Klopp as well, where you very rarely see players that come into the team and hit the ground running. So we've had the likes of like Fabinho that's come in, who was a polished CDM, but used to play in a double pivot when he was at Monaco. He came in, he took about 6 months to settle. You had Robertson as well. He had to bide his time. So when you've got these special managers that are unique in terms of how they want football to be played, it's very rarely you get players that come in and hit the ground running straight away. This season, however, I think we've signed different types of midfielders, and it's kind of similar to the players that you've recruited in terms of you've signed technicians, you've signed players that are specialists in their fields. Like Doku, for example, I believe he had the highest rates of dribbles one-on-one in Europe last season. So that was probably a trait that perhaps we probably lack, or someone we can actually have that comes off the bench and be impactful in the game. Kovacic, for me, that's a question mark, only due to the fact that he's injury prone. So that was a bit of a surprise signing. But Matheus Nunes, I'm a fan of his. I like the way he plays, can play a different variation of positions. So I think you're right. We're not going to see the best of these players right now, but you are going to slowly see how Pep embeds them into the team. Because the players that we've signed this in the summer, they're different midfielders to what we have signed in previous years. They're all technicians. We've got Szoboszlai, who's ball to ball, box to box, where we've got Endo, who's a destroyer. A lot of fans, didn't give him a chance before he signed. Do you know what I mean? They dismissed him straight away. But he's pivotal right now. Everyone can't stop singing praises of Endo. And McAllister, for me, has probably been one of the signings of the season. I actually thought you guys were going to sign him in the summer. I can't lie. Because I feel like he would have been the perfect Gundogan replacement. They're so like for like in terms of how they play.
Very similar, you're right.
Very similar. So I felt like we beat you to that player. Because I felt like if he was in that City team, yeah, it's a wrap altogether. But and then we've got a young Gravenberch who, for me, still learning the trade, kind of like Doku, where he's young, he's still learning how to evolve in this new system of play. You know, Gravenberch has been inactive for about a year at Bayern, so he's still getting back to that rhythm, getting used to a new surrounding, new league. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a very interesting encounter. Now, on this channel, I've been a bit shameless. I've been talking about the quad quite a lot. Now, in terms of you, do you have that same notion about your team in terms of winning the treble, or are you a bit more mature and you're just like, I'm just taking a game at a time?
Do you know what is like last season when like I wasn't even thinking of treble because we was like 13 points behind Arsenal. I wasn't thinking about it. And I was just taking game by game. And this season exactly the same because all of a sudden, 28 games played in the league, I believe. No, 20. How many games have we played in the league so far? Is it 27, 28? 27. Yeah, 27 so far. Yeah. And then we're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, quarterfinals of the FA Cup. And it's just creeping. Like we've got Newcastle at home. We beat Newcastle in a semi-final. That's at Wembley, right? And then Champions League, not even bigging up ourselves too much, but in a two-legged game, it's going to be very difficult to beat us, isn't it? And to be honest, I don't see any threats. The only threat I see is like an English team because it just becomes a Premier League game, which you don't really want. But over two legs, it's difficult. And the Premier League, look, we're 1 point behind Liverpool. You know, we all got a tough run in. We all got to play Tottenham. You guys still got to play Man United. Arsenal got to play Brighton. Arsenal still got to play us. So there's enough, games to be played for, whatever's happening in the Premier League. But I'm just taking one game at a time, and I'm confident in the team. And I've seen for the last 7-8 years when it comes down to crunch time, City always performs. So we're just gonna have to see how it goes. And Sunday will be a great start to see how the rest of the season and those 11 games are gonna unfold, man. So I'm just taking it one game at a time, man.
Yeah, fair play. I've been a bit shameless. I've been saying quad talk on every episode, but to be fair, in terms of last season, you have a right to feel confident about sort of the league because you said you were 13 points behind Arsenal, you pipped them, and then obviously you won the league. So you know how to win leagues. You've been doing it back to back for a number of years now. So, but it goes without saying in terms of how City are in the league, where they are known to be the strong contenders to win the title. Obviously, Liverpool have done it once. So the advantage for us is that we're used to kind of going toe-to-toe against you. So it's going to be an interesting counter this week.
Sure.
Yeah, very looking forward to it. Now, let me present a hypothetical question for you. So if you could choose one Liverpool player to sign to add to your Man City team, who would it be and why?
Who would it be and why? Who? I could go for the obvious. I love Alisson. I think he's top goalkeeper, and I think
Better than Ellison.
Alisson.
Is he better than Ellison?
Oh, for sure. Because better shot stopper, better commander, just the presence. And when you look at Alisson, for his talent, he's probably the best goalkeeper the Premier League has ever seen, just based on talent-wise. I'm not saying longevity and what he's won, but if you just look at him, if you look at him, that's how you would build your prototype goalkeeper. Good with the ball, commands the area, big, strong, makes crucial saves. So I would say Ederson, but then I also love Trent as well. I love Trent, but just the annoying thing is that he can't defend. But in a City team where he's not going to defend a lot, it's all right. So I would probably say, Trent or Alisson. That's who I'd say, those two. Because
Trent could play double pivot as well.
I think Mo Salah could. He could play well in a City team, but he just doesn't look like a Man City player, if you get what I mean. Just in terms of, I'm not going to be like those guys that ridicule Mo Salah. I think he's very good, but his technical ability and just how he plays is not really a player that would fit into the City team. So I would say it would be Alisson or Trent. They're my two.
No, that's a fair point. I think with Salah, he's a very direct player. So for him, it's not really about having high possession, because that's what Pep teams are normally known for, isn't
control.
it? Yeah, it's not really like he suits a Jurgen Klopp team where it's all guns blazing, heavy metal football, as Klopp likes to describe it, and it's all about trying to get the goals. So that's why it becomes so clinical over the years. So we're not relying on him to do the passing and such, even though he has evolved as a playmaker in recent months. But he is a gunman, in my opinion, in terms of coming from that right side and scoring the goals. So Trent can play in a double pivot as well, so it's not a bad shot in terms of having a player in that team. So yeah, that's a fair assessment. But let's come back to reality.
What about you? We've got a plethora of talent, but who would you take?
Who would I take? That's a good question. I don't know. The obvious one for me is Haaland, because I feel like having a prolific player up top, but Kevin De Bruyne as well. I know he's getting old as well, but I'll say Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's got everything in midfield, and to have him in our midfield, even him playing as a number 8, I feel like he'll do well. And playing alongside Szoboszlai, I feel like that would be a good combination as 2 number 8s as well that can kind of interchange as well. Yeah. We just need to get a proper DM like a Rodri, and then we're sorted. But Endo's doing it. Endo's doing a job as well. So,
but it's funny because if you look at it, like you said, it's either De Bruyne, but the player that's best suited to your team would be Haaland. Just how he plays, because when he plays with De Bruyne, he loves those passes where it's De Bruyne sees him, looks up, pass it, and he can run onto it. You see how he played Luton in the FA Cup and he scored 5. It was a field day because every time De Bruyne was getting the ball, spraying it to him, and just basically, it was just transition play. And that's how you guys play. And that's how you guys get the best out of Salah. It's all about transition. Get the ball. And you guys, in terms of, Klopp's philosophy, it is a bit of, tiki-taka, keeping possession, but it's moving the ball faster. Not, pedestrian. It's like, get the ball, boom, 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 boom. Get Salah, Diaz, Nunez on the run. So I think Haaland would love it there because the way you guys do play on the transition, he's just running and someone's gonna find him. Do you know what I mean? So that's definitely a shout, Haaland.
Yeah, counter pressing, that's our thing. So he would definitely suit us in terms of that setup. And I feel like it would just be such a clinical player for us. I didn't want to say Haaland too strongly because obviously we got Darwin Núñez. I didn't want to get any negative responses from some of our fans. He's had a good day today, so I didn't want to put it down. But Haaland for me, he would be unbelievable, or De Bruyne, but I'd probably go for Haaland. So let's talk about the game now. So let me present the team news in terms of who's available from what I've seen online and what's been heard in terms of the press conference and stuff. And me and you can kind of predict our lineups and then speak tactically in terms of how we're both going to set up. So with regards to City, if there's any players that I've missed, please feel free to add, Sam. So from what I know, Doku seems to be doubtful to take part in his fixture, but he could face a late fitness test. So we'll soon find out. I'd probably say tomorrow or Saturday, probably tomorrow, as they normally do their lateness tests on Fridays. Mateus Nunes dislocated his finger, didn't he, against Copenhagen? So which is a mad injury to say it out loud. But so he seems to be a doubt for this fixture as well. And unfortunately, Jack Grealish is out with a groin injury, but is expected to return at the end of the month in time for the Arsenal game, which you mentioned earlier on. So is there any other injury concerns that you know of for City?
Not I know. I think they're just the main one. I think Vardy came back. He played 90 minutes yesterday. So we've got a couple of players that have gone out. Obviously, Foden had a little bit of a tweak when he played City, but they'd seen him in training, so he seems like he's going to start. So I think that's just the main ones at the moment. So you're spot on there, bro.
Cool. And for Liverpool, Mohamed Salah returned to action earlier this evening against Sparta Prague, so he's in contention to start this Sunday. Gomez and Konate left the pitch injured during this game, but I believe Klopp more or less stated that both players are fine. So I guess we can count them to be in the squad for Sunday. But we have a long injury list with the likes of Matip, Ben Dog, Bajtic, Thiago, Jota, Jones, Alisson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who are still unavailable, just to name a few, that are unavailable for this fixture. So what we'll do is we'll predict the lineups for both teams. As your guest on my show, Sam, I'll give you the honors to start first, and we'll present the Man City lineup. So the first question is, What formation do you believe City will start with?
So look, I always say, and this is from a basketball analogy, in terms of formations, it's only for layman terms. So people that don't know how football works, you have a formation. So people say, oh, they're playing 4-3-3. But when you're playing football, you have a formation you play in possession and a formation that you play out of possession. And as Pep's been tweaking, people have started to just say, okay, cool, he's gonna play a 3-2-5 or 3-2-4-1, which he's essentially he's gonna play. But originally it would be a 4-3-3 and Stones moving into midfield. But for this we can just do it as a 3-2-4-1.
4-1? Okay, fine, fair enough. So is Edison fit enough to start in this one?
Yeah, for sure. Edison will start. But funny enough, I was telling my friend this yesterday, and I was just thinking, not yesterday, like last week. I said, I love Edison, but there's something about him where he doesn't seem like a great shot stopper, in it. But when I see Ortega's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, man. Like he's great at distribution, very good at shot stopping, commanding. When I see him in goal, I look very comfortable. And sometimes I think, you know what? I wouldn't even mind starting Ortega, but Edison's a top class goalkeeper in terms of his distribution anyway. So we'll go with Edison.
It's very similar to our setup where Alisson, we all know, is a world-class keeper, but there's still like a small corner of fans that actually feel like Kelleher could be the guy that steps up and becomes number one in like years to come.
No. Not for now. No, not for now.
I feel like they're thinking long term. I don't agree with that because I've criticized Kelleher quite a few times this year. I think he's been hot and cold, but as a number two, I think he's a fantastic keeper because stylistically he's quite similar to Alisson, where he's a good shot stopper, decent with his feet. So he's a good player, good goalkeeper to come on. So I kind of feel like similar to you, where Edison might be eccentric in certain parts of his game, but he's very solid at what he does as well. And then you've got Ortega, who's probably a safe pair of hands. And then when you see him on the pitch, you do feel assured. Like, for example, if we had Adrian in goal, I'm shitting my pants. So.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
So it's not the same kind of emotion there. So yeah, for us, thank God Kelleher's still around because there's a rumor going around that he picked up an injury midweek, but that was false. It was just some random Twitter user that had about 100 followers and then just created a rumor and it went around somehow.
Yeah,
that's how social media works.
Like that. There's so many fake accounts and you just see them as like all you see is a picture, the Avin, you think, oh, it's real, and then you go and see 5 followers and you think, I got fooled by this, I got finessed by this stupid account. But
people buying ticks now as well, aren't they? So you're just getting finessed by anyone nowadays. So
no, who's who?
It's so true.
Who's who?
Trust me. Now, in terms of your back three, who would you start in this game?
Well, like even before I go to, I love what Pep has done in the last few years, where people complain that football's coming very systematic and so forth. But I love how Pep's gone to that thing of I just want to play 4 great centre backs that can defend, because we've seen it where when you've got Ake, Diaz, Stones, and Akanji, they can defend great on a 1v1. So we've seen him stop Saka. We've seen him kind of lock down Salah at some points. Yes, Salah might have his good days, but Ake on the recovery, he's got the pace, he's got the strength. You can't just easily beat him. So I like how Pepper's transition where he just wants to play 4 centre backs at the back. So I think for this game, it's a big game, hostile atmosphere. So me personally, how I would play Ake left centre back, Diaz in the middle, and I'll play Akanji right centre back. But I know Pep, he's going to play Walker for that one great attribute that he's got, that recovery. When you've got a Diaz or a Salah and the ball goes over you and you need someone to recover, Walker's your guy. And in a 60-meter sprint, you're not really going to bet against Walker. And at the moment, he is our captain. So I'm going to go with Walker. Even though I prefer Kanji, but I think Walker's going to be the right centre back.
I think Kanji's underrated. He's a player I quite like, to be fair. I mentioned it a few years ago when he was at, I don't know if he was even at Dortmund. He might have been at his previous club, which was FC Basel in Switzerland. Yeah. I've liked him for years. I feel like he's such a good player on the ball, very dominant in the air, but can for a big guy, can definitely play ball as well from
Yeah,
the back, and a good aerial presence in terms of from an attacking sense of view as
and
well.
he's
In
very
terms of
smart as well. He doesn't make rash
he is,
decisions, rash tackles. Very composed, very calm, and that's what you
yeah,
want from a centre back as well. Yes, you want him to get into nitty gritty, which he does do, but you just want him
yeah,
to be composed. Where you might be under pressure. You're getting bombarded with chances, but he can take the ball, slow it down, and calm it down. So yeah, I agree with you on that one, bro.
yeah. He's definitely smart. I've seen videos of him doing random maths equations.
Bro, I know.
You know?
I'm telling you, crazy,
So
crazy.
he's definitely got the mind ticking when he's on the pitch. So yeah, it's a fair shout. And Ake as well. To be fair, I think Ake is underrated, man. I think
Very.
he doesn't get the play. He's such a solid player, but he adds so much balance into that City team, playing left-sided, but can play in a centre-back role, can play left-back if required.
Yeah.
But it's like even when he plays left-back, he doesn't seem out of position. Like he knows his
Yeah.
role. And yeah, I feel like he's effortless on the ball sometimes. I think he's underrated. I think he's a very good player. Very good player. Now, in terms of your double pivot, who are you going with?
That's straightforward. And I've said, like, I've always loved Stones, right? From when he was at Everton.
Yeah.
But the thing about Stones is always like, oh, he's got a concentration lap. He's not always going to be concentrating. He can make mistakes. Pep bought him for 50 million. And right about now, everyone knew he had the talent, but the last 18 months to 2 years, Pep has turned him into this beast with this hybrid position, man. Like he's got a mindset where when we watched the Man United game, we watched the highlights, he was playing centre back, he was playing centre mid, he was playing as an 8. Like this guy, talent on the ball is crazy. Like mind crazy, composure crazy. So that double pivot, that's like if Pep's starting the team, they're the first 2 players that he puts in. That's a lock. It's gonna be Rodri. Rodri's unbeaten in 60 games. He has to start.
Wow.
When Rodri plays, there's a sense of calm and composure, and he just knows how to play that number 6 role like to the best of his ability. And it's so crazy because I remember there was always a conversation: who's the better DM? Him, Fabinho, Partey, and he's the only one still here, surviving the test of time. And he's elevated as well. He comes up in clutch moments, Champions League finals, big games. He got us last minute winner against Sheffield United. Got a goal against Chelsea to come back and start it off. Then got a goal against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge where we nearly won the game 4-3. So in the middle, it's Rodri and Stones, man, hands down.
No, I think with Stones, I feel like he gets disrespected. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's English defender is not, it's not appealing to describe him as an elite defender. Does that make sense? Like it's a bit of a weird stigma. But no, I think when he was at Everton, I saw the potential, but I didn't really think he would elevate to that next level.
Yeah.
I just thought he was a solid Premier League defender, but under Prep, like you said, he's evolved to a different type of player, playing in so many different positions. His ball ability has never been into question. It's kind of like his consistency. How does he evolve as a player going forward? And I feel like he's been one of your stand-up players in the recent years. I know Diaz gets a lot more of the plaudits in terms of being your best centre-back, but I feel like Stones is just as important in my opinion. So,
and like you said, I don't know how often you watch City games, but
yeah,
Diaz has his best games when he plays with John Stones at centre-back.
Yeah.
When he's playing with everyone else, like as much, I love Diaz, innit? But when you see him playing with other people, he starts looking shaky. He makes mistakes. You're thinking he starts acting out of character. I'm like, what are you doing? This is not the Diaz I know. So, like you said, John Stones is a very pivotal part and a very important cog in this Pep's formation philosophy. So, yeah, big up John Stones, man.
Yeah, he's definitely a calm presence in that backline because I remember watching Diaz for Benfica before you lot signed him, and he was a rash defender.
Yeah,
like he used to get red cards, give away penalties left, right, and center. Like you could see he was a very aggressive defender.
Yes, that's the
like he just needed to be alongside someone to kind of mellow him down, calm him down, and play to his strengths rather than go full blown 100 miles per hour to tackle someone. Like be a bit more calculated in your decision making. So
it makes sense because as much as Diaz looks mature, he's still young. He's 25. People forget that
bloody hell, is that it?
John Stones is like
Wow.
29 now. Like like John Stones has been playing for so long, yeah. You still think John Stones is young, but he's
Yeah,
old.
true.
So like when he's playing with Diaz, yes, Diaz is the captain, but John Stones is probably the calming influencer saying,
Yeah.
forget the rash tackle, stop just lunging. Like, do you know what I mean? And like I said, when you see those two play together as centre back, Diaz looks way better, more calm, more composed, and he does what he needs to do. And then when he plays with other defenders, he starts looking a bit more rash and starts making more mistakes. So John Stones is very, very important to the team, man.
No, definitely. I have to agree with that one. Midfield 4. Let's start from the left. Who are you going to start on the left wing? Because Doku is 50-50, but I feel like I don't know. What do you make of that? Do you think he'll be ready for this game or not?
I think, because again, out wide, we don't have a lot of options. So I think Doku will start. I think because Jack Grealish is injured. I don't really like Alvarez in that number 10 position. For me, I think he's a good player, but technically he's not good. Alvarez, I think when he comes into the team, yes, he's playing as a number 10. That's not his position, but everything just gets lost because sometimes where he's playing, he has to drop back into midfield. He doesn't have the awareness of playing as a number 6 or number 8, and his awareness is that he tries stupid things in the middle of the park and he loses the ball, and we get caught in transition, which is our weak point. So I would rather Doku start where Alvarez can be in the bench and we can play the right people across the midfield. So I would say Doku on the left.
Okay.
And then the 2 8s is going to be KDB and Bernardo Silva.
Yep.
And then on the right, obviously, it's going to be Philip Walter Foden.
Yeah, he's the one I'm very wary of. I'm not gonna lie.
He's got a great record at Anfield as well. He scored a lot of goals there. He scored when we drew 2-2.
Yeah.
He scored when we beat you 4-1 during COVID. Like he's stepped up big. And I think he likes it because he's a local lad, Northwest Derby. He just likes that environment and thrives off it. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully he steps up. But even looking at the team, I'm looking at this team, like minimum we should get is a draw. But Anfield's a cauldron. We're going to talk about it. The way you guys turn that into, it's like a gladiator arena. It's crazy. I don't know how you do it all the time. And then we'll talk about that. But then up front, obviously it's the big man, Haaland. No one else, man. The goal machine, the robot.
I actually heard some people thinking, not now, but I think last year they were saying that Alvarez should be playing more up top ahead of Haaland. But I thought that's just a wild statement. I know Alvarez is very clinical in front of goal, but the attributes that Haaland brings to the pitch, it goes without saying. I think Alvarez is a good player to have as a understudy or someone that can come in and make things, can play on the wings if required. If Doku isn't available, maybe that's an option for you guys to add. So let's say Doku isn't starting, for example. Would you go with Alvarez on the left or Foden on the left, or would you play Oscar Bob, who for me, whenever I've seen him play, he looks like one hell of a talent.
In this magnitude of game, I would go with someone with a bit more experience. And with me, I play Foot Manager a lot. And when I play Foot Manager and Alvarez can't really start or get into the team, I play him out wide. And I've seen Pep play him there before when we used to play a normal 4-3-3. So if Doku couldn't play, I would like to see Alvarez playing on the left. But I wouldn't want him to change it and then put Foden on the left, put Bernardo on the right, and then Alvarez in the middle. I just don't like that. When I've seen it, we just don't look as cohesive as we should, and there's no cohesion there. So for me, I just rather put him out wide where he could work some magic. He's still a goal scoring threat, but in terms of having Bernardo and De Bruyne as those 3-8s, they're already attacking midfielders, so their mindset is to get the ball, and have progressive passes. Whereas Alvarez gets the ball, he wants to shoot. He's not looking to feed in Haaland. Do you know what I mean? And with Haaland, his bread and butter is that 6-yard box, that penalty box area. Anything there, he's clinical in it. So hopefully Doku starts, but if he doesn't, Alvarez can be on the left.
No, I think that's a good shot in terms of who could come in if Doku's not available. You mentioned earlier that this is in terms of like on paper, it's a formation. This is how we expect the team to play. Is there any sort of like tactical tweaks that you feel like Pep might employ to get the best out of the players? Do you see players interchanging in certain positions, or is this going to be the shape of the team, but with just players moving around from here to there?
Yeah, I think this could be the shape of the team, players moving here and there. And
Okay.
the only interchanging that you're probably going to see is between Rodri and John Stones, depending who drops back into centre back. That's all we're
Okay.
gonna. That's the only thing that's gonna change. Sometimes it's gonna be Rodri, sometimes it's gonna be John Stones, and then you already know Bernardo. He's got a free role. He will drop into the left half, the right half spaces. Creating
Yeah.
those overloads with Carl Walker and so forth. So I think the way the team is set up, and I love what Pepper's done. And essentially, it's a team of 5 defenders and 5 attackers. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and if you want to interchange, you could take out Carl Walker, put in a Kanji, and you got a big presence. You got so many players over 6 foot there. You
Yeah.
got Haaland, John Stones, Rodri, Ake, Diaz, Akanji. You got beasts there in it. So it just depends
Yeah.
how you want to go. If you want to go with a setup where cool, we're great at defense, you take out Walker and put in a Kanji. But if you still want to keep Walker and have him for that pace threat where if a ball goes over the top and one of your wide players have got it, he can catch up. So I think we're always set up well. And it's not that we never play well at Anfield. It's just that, like I said, the stadium and the arena, it
Yeah.
just comes over you. Do you know what I mean? And it's weird because, like, I always say this, like, we got a better team than Arsenal, but in the last 2 years, Arsenal gone there and got points. So why can't we go there and play points? I think sometimes, when in this game against Liverpool, yes, you always want to play tiki taka, but now we've got Haaland. Sometimes just lump a ball over. We've seen,
Yeah.
Van Dijk have some issues where, and communication issues where the ball's gone over the top. We don't know what they're doing. Like, we saw him
Yeah.
against Liverpool. He looked poor. He's had some other
Mm.
games where he let the ball bounce and he's in no man's land. So I think, yes, we can still play that tiki-taka football, but sometimes if we have the opportunity to go long, let's do it, man. Let's test them out. And especially if you got, Doku on the wing, you got Phone on the
Yeah.
wing, you got guys that like to go forward, sometimes just change it up, because at the end of the day, we've in the last 10 years, 13 years, I think won there once, which is crazy. Do you know what I mean? So I think this team's a great team as it's set up, but during the game just might be some tweaks. And if we get an early goal, that's great. Silence the crowd.
Yeah, I think in terms of tweaks, I can see Pep going into a back four and then just having Rodri as the guy that's the number 6. Rodri is a man. He can play 6, number 8.
Yeah,
The guy is a one-man midfield.
Yeah.
One-man midfield. He's outrageous. And
Yeah.
like the way he's evolved over the years, like, because when he came, you can probably tell me your opinion. There was still doubts in terms of what he brings to the table. I don't think he was quite polished enough, but after that 1 year of settling down, as a lot of players do under Pep's regime, I don't think there's anyone that touches him in world football when it comes to that number 6 role. I think he's undisputed, if I'm being brutally honest. There's no one on his like wavelength, in my opinion. So this can be easily done, because then you've got a back four where I feel like our number 8s are going to play a bit more advanced. So then you've got 2 centre backs trying to close up shop, and then Rodri being the Hoover just to clean stuff up, and then just laying the ball off for the forward attackers. You've got 5 attackers there, who can do so much damage. So yeah, it's a very strong outfit, to say the least. Must be nice because we've got so many injuries, So, but yeah, we'll talk about the Liverpool team right now. So I will share the graphic for the Liverpool team, and I'll present the graphics for us. So yes, so let's start. So obviously in goal, I'm not going for Adrian, so it's going to be Kelleher in goal.
How long is Wilson out for? Do you know?
So the rumor right now is that he'll be available after international break. So that will be towards the end of the month. So he's not too far off. So it's between 2 to 3 weeks. So I think once the international period is done, he should be available after that. But I think he does miss quite a few crucial games. But it's one of those ones, but we'll just have to wait, because initially it was a small hamstring injury, then I think it just got worse. So they're just managing him to make sure that it doesn't sort of recur once again. So yeah, but to be fair, Kelleher, I do feel assured when he's in goal. He's been quite hot and cold for me this season. Recently, he's really stepped up. The Carabao Cup final, he was phenomenal, making world-class saves. Yes, a lot of saves during the game, and he's continued that good form into the last three recent fixtures. So I have sort of assurances that we've got a good goalkeeper between the sticks. If it was Adrian, yeah, different outcome altogether.
Based on what you put here, you think Liverpool going to play a 4-4-2 or a variation?
You know what? I have forgot to set up the formation. It's going to be a 4-4-3. Can you imagine 4-4-2? Yeah, we're going all guns blazing as you guys. with a weakened squad, we're going to put all our youngsters, all our under 18s, and just go all guns blazing. So no, that's not the case. I just forgot to update it. So it's a 4-3-3. Yeah, I'm not that wild with my takes there. So in terms of the back four, after seeing the performance early on today, I'm not convinced with Robertson. I still feel like he's not quite fully fit, in my opinion. And in this magnitude of a game, I would rather go for someone that's been playing quite frequently. So I'm going for Joe Gomez at left back.
Okay.
I think he looks very assured in that position, despite the fact that when he did it a couple of times early in the season, I was just like, yeah, please don't ever put him at left back. But fair play to him. When we had no Robertson, no Tsimikas, he's evolved, he's adapted, he's even tried to do the inverted role at times. Well. And he's not doing that bad, if I'm being brutally honest. So he's definitely been, for me, one of our, it's a bit rude to say, but kind of like our surprise player of the season, where the expectations were low for him because he had quite a poor season last year. But context needs to be taken into consideration because he came back from a very, very long injury, an ACL injury, and he's had 2-3 of them as well in the past. So that took him a bit of time to find that rhythm. And last year, he was in and out of the team. This year, unfortunately, due to injuries, he's had more consecutive games. So that's him he's finding his rhythm again. He's evolving, playing in different roles. Plays left back, right back, inverted role. He played as a number 6 a couple of times last week as well. So Joey G can do it all, in my opinion. So yeah, I feel like he will. My choice would be he starts in this game, but you have the option of having a Robertson if we need a bit more of a natural left-footed player on that left-hand side. Right back for me will be Conor Bradley. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't impressed with his performance today. His first touch was an own goal, so came off the bench that second half. Outside his foot, top bins. Like if you're a striker, you're thinking that's a great finish, but it was actually an own goal. So yeah, it wasn't impressed with that, and he's been looking a little tired in the last few weeks, but that's due to the fact we've been playing him quite consecutively, and I'll be honest with you, we don't have too many options in that right back row.
He's been getting a lot of plaudits as well. So, sometimes as a young player, like getting a lot of plaudits very young, sometimes can get to your head. And again, these guys are not used to playing consistent and, having to step up game in game, week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? Game on game. So, like you said, maybe today, was a bit tired and stuff, but based on your injury list, he's going to start. And, from what I've seen of him, he seems like a very good and young, talented prospect. And, Liverpool seem to just kind of be building them, here and there, getting 1 or 2 players through from the academy. So it's good to see, man.
It is good to see. I think it surprised quite a few people as well. There were a few players that I was wary of. I've seen them a couple of times. For example, Dan's came to my radar a few weeks ago when we beat Arsenal 9-1, and he scored about 2-3 goals in that game. So that's where I was thinking, all right, fine, this is someone I need to look out for. There's a couple of other ones that are going to break through in the coming weeks or maybe even next season, because I feel like we've got some good young players, which is refreshing as well, because it's very rare to see clubs giving youngsters a chance. We're probably forced to play these players due to our number of injuries. But at least we have a manager that actually has faith in these players, lets them play in the way they need to play or the way they want to play, with plenty of freedom, with no repercussions. So if they have a bad game, nothing's going to be said about them. Klopp will always back his young players, and take the blame if required. But thankfully, all of our youngsters, whenever they've played, they've stepped up and they've delivered. So, yeah, credit to the young players. One thing that's definitely helped with Liverpool in terms of that transition of these young players coming through is the fact that all of our teams from like the under 18s to the first team, they all train in one complex. So that's been quite pivotal because the youngsters are getting to interact with the first team player, but they're getting to see the first teamers day in, day out. So it's kind of breeds a little bit of aspiration for these guys to be like, do you know what, I can be, in that fold in the near future. So it's a very clever plot in terms of trying to nurture a atmosphere where everyone's one collective. Doesn't matter what age group you're in. Like if you're given that chance, we're all there together. So it's a special moment for, I think, Liverpool in terms of upcoming years, in my opinion.
And it helps a lot as well, especially like when you're moving up from the 18s and the 23s.
Yeah,
it's not a daunting jump because you're already in that system and environment of chilling with the first team, training with the first team. So it definitely helps out. Obviously, we haven't spoke about this, but again, we'll probably get to this at some point. Obviously, Klopp's leaving. What's your thoughts on that? Who do you think is going to be the next manager? So once we get through this, we can jump on that.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. That's. I might have to bring the violins out for that later on, but yeah, we'll touch we'll touch on that after this lineup. In terms of centre backs, going for Van Dijk, of course. Captain had to come off the bench today as Konate picked up an injury. However, I don't think it's a serious injury, so I'm going to assume that he's fit to play in this game. So I'm going to go with Konate. Cool. So that's our back four. In terms of the midfield, for me, it's Endo. Has to play with his gumshoe on. So yeah, he's raring to go for this Sunday. Going to go with McAllister. He has been playing on the right side midfield number 8 role, but for me, he's going to play on the left side. And I'm going to go with Szoboszlai.
Cool.
I know he's just returned from injury, but he looked much better today. He was on the score sheet towards the latter stages. Still finding his rhythm, but I feel like even if he plays an hour, I feel like he'll be quite impactful from the start just because of his engine, his athleticism. I feel like it's going to help in terms of how we present ourselves against City. So this would be my midfield three. Yep. I'm trying to go for the strongest lineup that we can get right now. I'm starting with Salah. I know he's just returned as well, but I feel like this is what I think. I think he's been ready to play first team football since last week. It's just that we haven't rushed him. I think with the thought of this game, in my opinion. So
makes sense.
He's trained a few, and because the last few games they were against Luton and Nottingham Forest, so you can kind of rotate your squad and do it accordingly to that. So from now, got a bit of game time earlier today, played about 15-20 minutes. He should be raring to go against City. So Salah for me over there. Darwin Núñez for me starts up top. Gakpo, I do like the player, but he's been in poor form recently.
I was about to ask you about him. What's your thoughts on Gakpo? Because I always saw the potential at PSV, but then again, sometimes you need that time to adapt. But I don't know. It just seems like even when you guys bought him, I thought, why are you buying him? Because you've got Jota, you got Diaz. He mostly plays on the left-hand side, so he can't really play on the right. And then I saw Klopp playing him as an 8, moving into a 10. I was like, that's not Gakpo. It's like, was it just based on you didn't want another team to get him, or you just wanted, reinforcements? But I just don't know if it's a right fit right at this time, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So when we signed him, I can't lie, I was slightly surprised as well because there weren't no rumors surrounding the story. There wasn't really any sort of inkling, and he was strongly linked to a move to United. So I think a lot of people expected him to go there. I think with Gakpo, we identified him as a player that can play in different positions. But I think the plan for Gakpo was to replace Firmino in the team, where he can, because he's very technically good, so he can drop in that sort of false 9 role and be very influential. He showed it in the latter stages of last season. And because of that good form, I think a lot of Liverpool fans expected him to hit the ground running from this season onwards and go from there. He's had a bit of a stop-start season where you basically just mentioned that he's played in numerous positions. Um, so there's been times where he's played on the right. He's not suited to playing that role whatsoever. Play as a number 8 from an attacking point of view, he can do a job, but he's not really a midfielder. Let's be brutally honest.
Sure,
So
definitely.
yeah, so for me, he's always been a player to cover the left and that false 9 role where it gives us a different option. So with some teams, we might prefer to have a direct number 9 like a Darwin Núñez, or we might be up and against an opposition where we kind of need an extra body in midfield to kind of just drop deep and then allow the wide players to be more infield forwards to kind of create as a double attack going forward. So
basically like a 4-4-2 diamond in a sense.
Yeah, just to add a bit of variation in terms of how we set up. So I think that's why he was brought to change our approaches depending on oppositions on a tactical point of view.
Makes a lot of sense, to be fair.
Yeah, it does. He's just been. I know some fans, you know how it is in this social media day and age. People have already dismissed him, saying that he needs to be gone. I'm not with that notion. I think that's a bit harsh. He's just a player that's currently low confidence, hasn't been playing that many consecutive games. He has done recently, but he's still finding that rhythm. I feel like once he gets that goal, that will help as well, because you got to consider that he's actually hit double figures already so far this season. So he's not been that bad. It's just that it's not linking with the play like we saw last season. So the 7-0 that everyone talks about, he was phenomenal in that game. So I mean, people still have traits of those flashes of those brilliant goals that he scored that day. So it's a bit of a hindrance for him right now. But I think he'll come good. He might not be, I would say, like a first choice attacker in our team, but he gives us options. And depending on opposition, I feel like he can be a weapon for us whenever we need him to be. So I still feel like he will have an important role for Liverpool in the coming years, and depending on the manager as well, which we'll talk about as well. I think he'll have a long-term future at the club. So yeah, some fans already dismiss players, but that's football fans in this day and age, isn't it?
Of course,
you love them you love them 1 week, you want to get rid of them the next week. So it is what it is with regards to that. And my final player on the left has to be Diaz. Diaz is another player, funny enough, Sam, where he's been getting a lot of abuse from one side of our fan base and a lot of praise from one side. As a neutral, what have you made of his performance whenever you've seen him so far this season?
I think, again, Diaz has had a very stop-start season. He's been injured, he's had a bad injury. The situation which happened with his dad, so into consideration. So it's not been a straightforward season. And I see where the Liverpool fans are coming from, because, when he first came, it was at Diaz that we also at Porto, where he was raw, a diamond and rough, but he would take players on. He would try a worldie shot, but there was just that when you saw him, that was like when you got the ball, he can make something happen in it. Whereas now you see him, he doesn't look confident. He don't look like he necessarily can beat a player. And it's like, okay, what Diaz are you gonna get? So it's just like, cool. I get he's had a bad injury. He has to come back from that, overcome that situation with his dad. He has to overcome that. So it's more like, let's give him a bye. Yeah, he hasn't been great, but we can't really get onto him. Next season, if it does continue, then it's like, okay, it's the Gakpo situation where, is this guy even making our team better? Or he has to be a guy where he has the whole bench, we bring in someone else, or we start Jota, or we see who else can fill that left-sided void, and those guys can be rotation players, like you said, for different teams that you're playing. Maybe a team that sits back more, or a team that presses more, so you got more pace. So I think his season has been very stop-start. I wouldn't say it's been a great season, but circumstances plays a big role on that, innit?
No, that's a fair assessment. I think since the turn of the year, I feel like he's definitely stepped up when Mohamed Salah was at AFCON. So he definitely played a part where he played in different roles. He played on the right side a few times, played centrally. And I feel like he's been that sort of spark that we need from the attacking point of view, because a lot of our players, they're not, apart from Núñez, who has great raw speed, but he's the one that really takes on the fullback and tries to make things happen from that wide area. I think for him, the area that he needs to work on is his finishing, where I know he's shown moments of brilliance when he was at Porto and the first year when he joined Liverpool. But I feel like he gets in so many good chances. He needs to be a bit more prolific in front of goal, just to notch up that tally. So, but no, I think there's a good player there. Yeah, I know there's already rumors saying that he might leave in the summer, but at the minute, I can't really take players leaving or coming in too seriously because we don't have a manager right now. So this will be my lineup against City. So for me, Conor Bradley, he's going to be the one that occupies this sort of area, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's the first time that Salah and Bradley have actually played together in the team. So that will allow Salah to be a bit more infield and Bradley playing more as an orthodox right back rather than Trent. You know, with Trent, it will be where Szoboszlai ends up occupying this area. Salah's still here, but then, you know, Conor Bradley is doing that inverted role, and then Konate is. So it's a bit like mixed match where players aren't really playing to their strengths. So Konate is playing right back. That's not his role. Bradley as a midfielder, that's not his role. That's not really his skill set. Szoboszlai playing out wide can play that role, but that is not his strong position either. And Salah's probably the only one that kind of, I guess, takes advantage of this sort of role where he's a bit more infield. But the other guys have to kind of make it work to accommodate Trent Alexander if he was playing. So it's interesting to see Conor Bradley in this one where you've got an orthodox right back. So I feel like Szoboszlai will be in this sort of area, and then you have Salah coming more infield, but attacking this sort of right side of the box, and Conor Bradley providing the crosses from this side. And with Darwin Núñez, I think it would be interesting to see how he plays because he doesn't always stick to one position. So I can see him interchanging with Diaz quite a bit, and then Diaz going through the middle at times. You've got McAllister sometimes dropping deep, and it allows Szoboszlai to have a free role at times. It might even be a thing where we have to play a double pivot, and it's not really a formation we play, but it would depend on the setup of City that allows Szoboszlai to be a number 10, have a bit of a freedom, and McAllister and Endo being a double pivot, but McAllister providing great passing variation to set up the 4 attackers up there. So it'll be interesting to see how he falls. Some people might expect Joe Gomez to come in more inverted. I'd rather he stay a bit more traditional in this one, with the thinking that Phil Foden's going to play on that right-hand side. So the advantage is that Gomez is a naturally right-footed player, and obviously Foden's a left-footed player. So having that player where he cuts in, Gomez should be comfortable enough to actually try and block any, stop him from coming infield. But even if he takes him out on the byline, it'll be on Foden's weaker foot. So I think tactically it makes sense to have Gomez in that role. I personally believe he's the better player right now in terms of form, ahead of Robertson and Tsimikas, who's had a couple of decent performances, but I feel like Gomez, for me, has been the one that really has stepped up this year. And whenever needed, he's there, and he does a great job for the team. So yeah, I think Joe Gomez would definitely be a shoo-in for this position. I've got a couple comments here, so I'm just going to go through them. So Daz says, big up yourself, Daz. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for tuning in. He's presented his lineup. So he's gone for Kelleher, Bradley. He's actually gone for Kwanzaa. That might be on the basis of Konate being 50-50, which is fair enough. Van Dijk. So he's gone for Robertson on the left. And at the same time, he might be thinking Joe Gomez is out as well, because there's a bit of uncertainty. I think Klopp said they're fine. They should be ready to go. So let's see. And then he's gone for Endo, McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Mohamed Salah, Núñez, and Diaz. So in terms of midfield and up top, pretty much like for like from what I've done. Yeah. Obviously, the 2 players that are in difference is based on their availability. So me and Daz on the same wavelength there, I would say. Now that we've done the lineups, we can touch on the question you wanted to ask me about Jurgen Klopp. So
what's your thoughts, bro? Chat to me. What's your thoughts, man?
When I heard the news, I'm not gonna lie, it's funny. My friend who sent me the message was a United fan, so you know they were loving it when they trolling straight. So they were loving the fact that, you know, breaking news, and I thought it was a trolling account that he sent me as well. So I went through, and I was like, nah, this can't be real. So I went on Twitter, and I didn't even see a tweet. The first thing I saw when I opened my app was the short video where he announced that he's leaving. I'm thinking, oh my god.
Oh, so you've even seen it later, because when I saw it, I just saw the screenshot. It was like from Sky Sports. Oh, Klopp's leaving. I couldn't believe it. I went to Sky Sports News. I saw the yellow bar. I said, "Shit, damn, it's true. Like, it's mad."
I was working. I saw this like around 11 in the morning. I'm thinking, what kind of troll account is sending all this sort of stuff early in the morning? But when I saw it, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna sound very dramatic, but I felt like someone passed away. Like it felt, I'm not gonna lie, it felt bad, and I'm just like my head was gone. I'm thinking, what is going on? So no, I'm not gonna lie, I took that news like with huge shock and surprise. But having said that, after watching the interview, I kind of understood it due to the fact that he looks exhausted. You can tell now in terms of like after he's revealed the reasons why he's leaving. You know, he's been managing for over 20 years, hasn't really had a break in between jobs. So even when he was a Dortmund manager, he was supposed to take a year out. He ended up being Liverpool manager
straight away.
Three months down the line, like in September, October. So never really had a break. So I understand it. It's a tough job. You're obviously competing against Man City and Pep year in, year out. It's going to take a lot of out of you when you're competing against elite managers in that manner. So no, I'm very, very sort of shocked by the news at the time, but I feel like I was probably one of the few people that was understanding in terms of why he's leaving, because there were a lot of fans that were like, nah, man, like, why is he doing it now? Why couldn't he announce it at the end of the season and stuff like that? But the thing is, it's not just him that's leaving. There's a whole backroom staff. There's people that are senior as well in terms of the hierarchy, in terms of recruitment and stuff. Some of them are leaving as well. So you got to let them have the opportunity to find a role before the season ends as well. And I think there's rumors flying around that Pep Linders, our assistant coach, is possibly going to be the new Ajax manager next season as well. So, so there's, these guys, they need to find jobs for themselves as well, So yeah, it was a big shock. Now, you asked me in terms of who I'd like to see as the manager coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's everyone's undisputed choice. It has to be Xabi Alonso. And not just simply on the basis that his team's doing fantastic right now. I think that is a good reference point in terms of that, the type of football that he plays. For me, he's a different type of manager, and I feel like he'll bring something different to what Liverpool haven't had over the years, because with Klopp, we're very used to a certain style of play in terms of all guns blazing, heavy metal football. And I'll be honest, there aren't many managers in world football that have that same philosophy or can execute that style of play in this day and age. So for Alonso, I like the fact that his team has a different balance where they play very high possession football, but at the same time, they're a very strong counter-pressing team. So it's a good balance. And I think that's the traits that he's probably learned from being managed with the elite managers in his playing career. So at Liverpool, he had Rafa Benitez, so very tactically astute in terms of his defensive setup. Jose Mourinho, pretty much similar ilk, where defensively great setup. Ancelotti, more or less attack and defense all round.
Don't forget Pep. Yeah.
Pep, that high possession football. So, and obviously his father used to be a manager and he used to be a player as well back in the day. So there's a lot of layers that he's taken from his youth days onto his playing career. And for me, he ticks all the boxes to be a Liverpool manager in terms of replacing a manager like Klopp is always going to be a difficult task. It's possibly the most impossible task you can think of. But a former player who knows the city, who knows the club, who knows the expectations of what comes with being at Liverpool Football Club, I feel like he ticks all those boxes. But at the same time, I feel like he's a new breed of coaches that will probably revolutionize the game going forward. So we've also been linked with the Sporting Lisbon one, Ruben Almiron, who is a similar style of manager. They both have a similar type of philosophy in terms of the setup and the way they tactically play as a team. So for me, it's Alonso. People say, oh, he lacks experience. Why would you go for him? For me, you got to find that experience somewhere. I feel like because he's been such a top player, he understands what comes with the job at the same time. So for me, that's my choice. Xabi Alonso. I know people are saying that, oh, Bayern Munich, they're looking for a manager as well. I don't think it appeals to him as much to be a Bayern Munich manager as for Liverpool, because he's gone on record to say that with all his former clubs, he feels like a special bond with Liverpool. And he said it's kind of indescribable in terms of how he feels. His family feel the same way as well. He did an interview a few months ago where his son keeps saying that, oh, why are we not going to Liverpool? Because he's born there. So his son wants to come back to Liverpool. So the writing's on the wall for him to be the next Liverpool manager. But, everything's never plain sailing. There's been links to De Zerbi, who is not the flavor of the month anymore because Brighton aren't doing so great. So some fans have some question marks over that. Some fans even told me Ange Postecoglou, being a Liverpool fan and playing a nice style of football that could probably suit us. Thomas Frank, who I think is a good coach. Me personally, I don't want to seem too harsh. If he was to be appointed Liverpool manager, for me, it would be a bit of a slightly underwhelming appointment to replace Klopp. Who do you think would be the right fit for Liverpool as the next manager?
So
please don't say Mourinho.
So I do like the shout of Xabi Alonso, but I just don't like Xabi's a very smart guy. You can see he's articulate and he's very meticulous as well. And I don't think he would either take the Real Madrid job or the Liverpool job just yet. If I was Xabi, I would win the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen, which they're most likely to do, and then stay there for one more season because you're going to play in the Champions League and you got another chance to repeat. So that gives you more of an experience and a wealth of knowledge, and then take that opportunity and go to a Real Madrid or a Liverpool. Like you said, I don't think the Bayern job appeals him as much because if I've already beat you in that league, why do I want to join you? Because I've already won that trophy anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think Liverpool and Real are the best options. I think at this present time, I like him a lot, but he's very hot and cold. I think it might be De Zerbi, just because he's got the Premier League experience. De Zerbi's a very, he's a very well-known manager in the Premier League that everyone's speaking about, and there's two teams that are gonna want to get him, either Liverpool or Chelsea. And I think at this present time, Liverpool are gonna try and beat out Chelsea to get him because I think his style of play is great. But one thing I don't like about De Zerbi is that this guy doesn't have to grind out 1-0 wins. You don't have to bloody draw. And De Zerbi, you either win 5-0 or you lose 5-0. There's no in between. So I just don't know how that's gonna work at Liverpool. But I do like De Zerbi in terms of managing his philosophy. I think I was telling my brethren this as well. I was sending voice notes. He's a United fan. And I said, I think what De Zerbi needs to do, if he does go to a big team, he needs to adjust because he does all this. He's got this notion of, I want to do 7 changes every single game. You can't do that. If we're doing 7 changes every game, where's the continuity? Where's the consistency of building your strongest team and winning those games and maybe making 1 or 2 changes? And I think that's one thing the best coaches master, and Pep's mastered that a lot. Like last season, when it got to the crunch, for the last 10 games, I could tell you the team that's starting all the time. The last 10 games last season, it was the same team starting. It was Ederson, Ake, Diaz, Akanji, Stones, Rodri, Grealish on the left, Bernardo on the right, Gundo, De Bruyne, Haaland. Every single game. I didn't need to see, I didn't need to know, let me see the team sheet. I know who's playing because they're the guys that he trusted to go into battle with and they were going to come out victorious. And I think if De Zerbi does do that, so he does go to Liverpool, he has to find that middle ground of I can't just keep on changing my team every minute, getting these weird results. Because if you do that in the first 20 games and you've won 10, lost 10, Liverpool fans are gonna say, piss off. They're gonna start like how United fans are with Ten Hag. He doesn't draw. He wins, he loses, and he gets spanked by the big teams. Like that can't run. You know what I mean? So I think Alonso's a good shout, but I just think it's too soon for him. I would like him to stay one more season at Bayer Leverkusen. Based on experience, having Premier League experience and, the cachet that De Zerbi has, I think Liverpool are going to chase De Zerbi a lot. You know, there's other managers out there. There's Zidane's. I don't know if Zidane would want to go to Liverpool, but
Yeah.
I think based on who's out there, probably is De Zerbi. Almiron's good, but I think that type of signing as a manager is more of a Chelsea where they like to go for these guys that are hot, with not a lot of experience. It sounds, it looks like Football Manager. We've seen it with the players they've bought. They're buying young Brazilians for 20 million that we don't know of. You know what I'm saying? One guy called something Washington. I'm
Washington,
like,
since when was the
American president of footballer, the former American president of footballer, like George Washington. I don't know, man. But I think De Zerbi is probably in the hot seat for you guys.
Yeah. Would you take De Zerbi as Pep's successor? Because that's been something that's been spoken about, especially when he first became Brighton manager, and obviously his tactical approach. I think people thought, oh, he's kind of similar to Pep in terms of philosophy. Would you take him as the next manager of Man City?
Yeah, for sure. But the conditions the things I said, he doesn't do all that rotation, 7 players, learns how to grind out results and keep clean sheets. And if he can do that, I'm happy, because the style of play that he's got Brighton playing with, you know, players of less ability and lesser ilk, they're playing great football. So if you're doing that, if you're going to do that with now 5-star players and technicians and, you know, people that have got great tactical awareness, then I would love that. But I just can't deal with all this, you know, wishy-washy. You win one game 5-0, you lose 4-1. Like they beat someone the other day, then they played, is it Fulham? They got spanked by Fulham.
I'm like, spanked 4-0,
like I don't get this. So I love him as a manager, but you know, the last few months I've just been seeing things which kind of just rubbed you the wrong way with him. And I think he needs to kind of have some cohesion, have some discipline, and just focus on what he needs to do. But I'll definitely take him at City, man, for sure.
Yeah, I think that will be the turning point of him becoming an elite manager or not, because that's what's going to separate you. Because it's all good having like a football philosophy in terms of style of play, but like you mentioned, rotating your squad that heavy, it doesn't work in that manner. I think the goalkeepers, they rotate them week in, week out. So
exactly, who does that?
No one does. So it's a wild way of doing it, because then the first choice keeper's thinking, oh, fine, like I'm number one, but then number 2 comes in, and it's just like, why am I not playing? Like these players start having doubts, because they're like, oh, I maybe didn't perform to a certain level, but you know, the manager just wants to rotate you guys. So it doesn't bring that kind of harmony within the squad. It can definitely go flip side, and that's why they've suffered heavy defeats, like by the hands of Fulham. Today was it 4-0 that it
Roma spanked them.
Yeah, Roma spanked them. So you know, it's not easy, but he has a potential to be an elite manager. Thing is, when you've got a manager that rotates that might just be his approach. So is he too stubborn to adapt to how you should manage a team? Because I don't know if that's the case, to be fair.
I think he got away doing it at Sassuolo, at Shakhtar, and Brighton, because look, they're lesser teams, the expectations are low. If you're coming to Liverpool, Man United, Man City, the expectations are win or bust. So you can't take that risk. Yes, Man United Man City have, you know, a plethora of players, but you can't just keep on 7 players in, 7 players out, because then you start losing trust with the players. Like if you keep on rotating a De Bruyne or Haaland or Bernardo or Foden form, they're looking at you like, what are you doing here? Like, so I think that's one thing that he needs to just kind of focus on. But I'm guessing if he does go to a bigger team, he realizes the stakes are high and he can't really afford to do that. So I guess that would be the case.
No, that's a fair point there. I think he will definitely need to adapt his philosophy, because if he was a Man City manager and he was rotating players like that, they would not buy into that manager whatsoever.
Of course.
There'll be a lot of unrest in that squad. So let's see how it unfolds. You know, the sooner we get a Liverpool announcement, I might even bring you on the show. If it's De Zerbi, then you know we've got to do a special show on that. But
of course, man.
But I'm hoping it's Alonso. That's my favorite choice. So we'll see how it goes. And speaking of the setup at Liverpool, I've got a few comments there. So Amirali says Michael Edwards has held fresh talks face-to-face with FSG in America over a possible return to Liverpool. And the source is Paul Joyce. So Paul Joyce is actually a very trustworthy source that you can find on Twitter. He's a journalist for the Times, and then he's also said big up to Ozzie and other guy is Sam. So yes, big up to Sam as well.
Bro.
And then another comment is from Fazal, who says, "Are we getting Edwards?" So this, I'm assuming this is breaking news because I haven't seen this today. There's been a lot of noise about Michael Edwards returning to the club with a different role, not quite sporting director, but having more of an input in terms of finding that sporting director, but being the person that creates the whole system or the environment for that new sporting director. And we've been linked with Bournemouth's sporting director, whose name is Richard Hughes. So apparently, both individuals have, I think they're very close friends. So I also think Richard Hughes has said that he's planning on leaving Bournemouth at the end of the season and already has a next job in mind. So
interesting.
The connections are already there for Liverpool. So I do think there is some truth in this rumor. I don't think it's set in stone right now, but I can definitely see there being current talks, because with Klopp leaving, it's not just the manager. The setup has to change as well to accommodate that new manager. So whether it's Alonso or De Zerbi, that needs to be in place, because look at the likes of Manchester United as your pure example there. The hierarchy at the top haven't changed. They've just been getting new managers left, right, and center, and they're the ones that are completing the deals, buying big names, but not really having a strategy in place in terms of recruitment, in terms of what the manager actually wants. So, that club's a bit all over the place. But obviously, they've got new investors, so we'll see what they do in the summer. But yeah, at this stage, it's very hard to say if this is true. But I do feel like there is some sort of noise coming from both camps, and we'll see how it goes in terms of upcoming weeks. I know we'll be hearing a lot of news surrounding managers, sporting directors, maybe even players, but yeah, we'll talk about that in due time. We've done the lineups, we've spoken about how both teams will be tactically set up. It's time for your score prediction, Sam. What are you predicting for this match?
Before I go into score prediction, bro, I've got a quick question for you, because I see some socials and whatnot, and there's this notion of Klopp has built something at Liverpool without spending any money. We've won the Champions League. Yeah, we've won the Premier League. Yeah, we've won a few Carling Cups here, but you've all done it on a shoestring budget. You're basically Fulham. And I've got a list of players that, Klopp has spent money on. And going through this list, it's a lot of money. Virgil van Dijk, most expensive defender, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Mo Salah, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Robinson, Slobosly, paid 50, 60 million for him. McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch, Endo, Nunes, paid 80 million, more than Haaland, Cool. Gakpo, Carvalho, Ramsey, Diaz, Konate, Jota, Thiago, Timsack, Minamino, Alisson, most expensive goalkeeper in the Premier League history. Naby Keita, Fabinho, and Shaqiri. And I know your fans are going to say, oh, Coutinho money. Coutinho money was only 160 million. Where's the rest of the 600 million come from? Don't get me wrong. Like, Pep and Man City have spent money, but you got to realize a lot of the players that Pep has even bought, he's had to build them. Like, Sterling wasn't, sorry, not Sterling. Sane wasn't the guy. Bernardo Silva wasn't the guy. You know, who else have we bought? Diaz wasn't the guy, but Bernard Mendy wasn't the guy. These were just guys that we bought and we've made them better. Yes, we've spent money, but Edison wasn't the guy. Like, the most expensive player we bought was Alisson. Sorry, not Alisson. What am I talking about? Grealish for 100 million. And after that, everyone else we've bought has been in the realm of 50 million. Like, we bought Rodri. When we bought Rodri, who cared? No one cared about Rodri. People going to Atletico Madrid to look at what's it called, Saul Niguez and Koke. No one cared about Rodri. They just going for Villarreal. Like, and there's this myth and this notion that Pep just buys ready-made players and it's like, oh, put them in a team and they're gonna win. No, like, I just don't like how that narrative is, oh, Klopp has built a team and not spent money, but Pep has just bought the best of the players and he's done a madness. I don't like, that's one thing like what Liverpool fans try and tweet and say, which is, let me get your facts right. The same way lazy fans and journalists will tell you, oh, Pep went to a Barcelona team that was stacked.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because he brought in Busquets. Busquets wasn't playing before. He brought in Pedro. Pedro wasn't playing before. He brought in Piqué. Piqué was sitting on the bench at bloody Man United.
Yeah.
Xavi and Nesta weren't the Xavi and Nesta that he built them up to. Like, prior to that, they were sitting on the bench for Deco and Ronaldinho when Rijkaard was there. Messi, he's Messi to a false nine. And again, this is a lazy narrative of Pep just having money, having the best players, and just going to the best teams to just get easy wins. And those, I just hate those narratives, innit?
Yeah, I get what you mean, though. I think with Liverpool, we've had to, I think probably not last summer, but in previous summers, we've had to kind of wheel and deal in terms of getting deals done due to financial constraints and stuff. I think with Man City, whenever they identify a player, you've always said the ball mark is 50 million. Our ball mark has always been 30 million. So it's like that's the differentiation in terms of us buying players. But the whole Pep thing, that's something I think he doesn't get enough credit, because yes, he's managed a Barca team that had elite players, but I don't think it's that easy just to manage elite players, because you have to deal with egos, personalities, a way of playing. Because Zlatan was there. Zlatan is arguably one of the best strikers in the last 15, 20 years, but they never got along because tactically they didn't fit together. So it's not Football Manager, as we made reference to earlier on. It's more. There's more science to it, and it's the same at Bayern. But I think because he's been at very strong clubs, and it's the same with Mourinho when he was at Chelsea, and they were able to sign whatever player they wanted, because they were able to provide bigger salaries and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I feel like that notion is that City have spent a lot of money to acquire. Like, you guys would probably sign a squad player for like 50 million. Like you mentioned, like Shaqiri, we spent like 10 million on him. So does that make sense? So that's the differentiation. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think because Klopp has there's been a lot of summers where Liverpool fans would say, oh, we need this player, we need that player, but we were never able to acquire those players due to financial constraints. But a lot of our fans at FSG and FSG, I feel like business-wise, I like what they do in terms of how they recruit players. I think the net players you listed, the only player that comes to my mind that was a flop was Naby Keita. The rest of them were a success at Liverpool, even if it's for a short period of time. So I can understand your frustration as a Man City fan in terms of like, oh, why is it that always, it feels like Liverpool on a shoestring budget. We weren't quite on a shoestring budget, but I'll be honest with you, if that Coutinho money didn't come, we wouldn't be here, because that was the turning point. We needed that sort of injection, because we would not have been able to afford Van Dijk at that stage, because our previous record before that was, I don't even think it was Naby Keita, because we signed him afterwards, but we didn't really sign players above that 40 million mark. That was our highest.
At that time, it would have been, because it would have been Andy Carroll 35.
Yeah, so I think Salah came for like 36, 37. Okay. So he will just pipped that. So we never really signed players to that kind of magnitude. So I mean, that's the kind of the perception that fans have in terms of money spent, because obviously you can always say, oh, they spent $1 billion and Liverpool spent that much, and then you do the profit and loss, like do the ins and outs and all that kind of stuff. So it gets a bit technical in that aspect, but you can't take away what City have done over the years. And I do feel like Pep does get disrespected a little bit in terms of his coaching ability. It's not just because he signed all the most expensive players. He is an amazing manager and an amazing tactician. Like, he's revolutionized the way the game is played in this day and age, in my opinion. So I think in terms of the spending, I get it in terms of, because I know as Liverpool fans, I've done shows where I'm frustrated because we haven't signed this player and all that sort of stuff. But from a coach's perspective, I think you have to put some respect on Pep's name. I think he's one of a kind. And to say it's an easy job to manage Barca, Bayern, and Man City, look at other managers that have been to similar clubs. So I'll give you an example like Poch, Tuchel. Like, they've been to all PSG, Bayern, like they haven't delivered, then they've been dismissed straight away. So it's not as easy as it seems to be an elite coach. And he is an elite coach. So So yeah, I know Man City fans get a bit of a hard time on social, but yeah, you have to put context into both aspects because I do feel like you guys have spent a lot of money, but so have your noisy neighbors. But look where they are right now.
And
Does that make
exactly,
sense?
and I think at the end of the day, whether you spend 800 million or you spend a billion, there's
Yeah,
not really much of a difference at the end of the day because, like you said, there's certain times where we spend that money and a lot of players haven't worked out. That's some of that is from Pep's first season where he was trying to figure out players. Like he
yeah,
bought Lito, the Ferran Torres of the world, uh, these little left back, these little
yeah,
left backs or midfielders that you
yeah,
try and figure out, see if they're good and they're not good. So I just think at the end of the day, you could have put Klopp in that situation, had that money, and he probably still might not have achieved what Pep has achieved, and vice versa.
mm,
But you got to look at the credentials, what they've achieved with the budget. Because, like you said, Mourinho spent a lot. He was at Real Madrid. He didn't do nothing.
mm,
He never won a Champions League.
yeah.
You've seen, Poch go to PSG and he struggled.
PSG,
Seen
yeah,
Tuchel doing what he's doing now at Bayern Munich, and he's looking
yeah,
smelly.
yeah,
Buying Dyer, why are you getting Dyer on loan and then giving him a contract, and then even Harry Kane signing? That Harry Kane is not even a Bayern Munich signing. You
no,
can tell Bayern Munich was just struggling, and they wanted to sign a player that would make the fans happy. But he's not a Bayern Munich player. When do you see
yeah,
Bayern Munich spending £100 million on a striker?
yeah,
That's
never,
not their MO.
never.
That's not their
Mm,
MO. And you see
mm,
it now. They bought him, and now they're 10, 13 points behind Bayer Leverkusen. They're always going to score goals anyway. The thing wasn't
mm.
about goals; it was just about having a system and a style of play, and producing continuity. And they're always deemed to win the Bundesliga, innit? But yeah, I'll leave that Pep stuff for the online trolls, innit? But going back to your question,
Mm.
I've got two in it. I've got
Okay,
two. I've got two answers in it.
okay,
I've got 2-1 City, yeah, and I've got 2-2. Like
okay,
that's what I'm going with. I'm going with 2-1 City or 2-2 draw.
okay.
What about you?
I'm going for 2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be a very, very close game. I don't see it being where I don't see there being a lot of goals. I don't think it's gonna be that kind of end-to-end basketball type of game. I think
yeah,
it's gonna be very tactically driven, especially in the opening half an hour.
mm,
And then I think teams would kind of sense each other into the second half a bit more. I'm going
yeah,
for 2-1. I think we're just about going to nick it towards the latter stage of the game. In terms of goal scorers, the one that I told you earlier on for Man City, I was very wary of is Foden. I think Foden will score in this
yeah,
fixture. And I think for Liverpool, I'm going for Darwin Núñez and Mohamed Salah to score the winner at the end. So that's my prediction
yeah.
there. So
Either
yeah,
way, as I said, I've got City scoring 2 goals. I think it's
yeah,
Foden and Haaland scoring for us.
okay,
De Bruyne's going to get an assist, but I
okay,
think they'll be on a score sheet for us. It's very tough game, very hostile. If you said to me, Sam, take a 2-2 draw now, I'll shake your hand and be like, cool, on to the
yeah,
next. Because I don't think, like, this game is very pivotal, but I don't think it's going to win or lose the season. But I'd rather get a point here, move on, and then play our home game against Arsenal where we should win. And then that takes out all of our big games left. All we'll have is Aston Villa at home and Tottenham away the last game of the season.
yeah. I think if Liverpool win this game, I think that's a huge psychological advantage for Liverpool going forward
Yeah.
because the noise is that City are going to pip Liverpool. Like it's
Mm.
their title. It's just a matter of time. But if Liverpool beat City, and that doesn't normally happen in the past season because we drew early on, and you're spot on. That game you guys should have won. You had
Yeah.
plenty of chances to win that game. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Bro, I was pulling up. My hair's low, but I was basically pulling up my hair. I was like, what are we doing? Like, chart after like, what's so crazy? When you guys scored, Trent,
Yeah,
Doku did a step over. I think he beat Trent and he crossed the ball in low crossing it, and it got stuck between Haaland and Allison. And then from
yeah,
there, you guys countered us. Doku didn't track back. His man was bloody Trent. If he tracked back, he would have been able to stop Trent,
yeah,
right? He didn't track back. Trent got to where he got to. You guys got to the D pause and then
yeah.
shot and then he scored. But it was just a tale of just little measures where if we scored, it would have been 2-0. The game would have been done. But yeah, that game there, like if we won that game, I wouldn't be bothered because we'll be 1 point ahead. You win. It is what it is. Other games where we shouldn't have dropped points, but that's how the season goes. That's how the cookie crumbles. But I think what makes the season even great is that there's a lot of rivals in this to like stop it. So you've got a game, you got to go to Old Trafford and play Man United, and you think Man United want you guys to win the league? Hell no. So they're going to try and stop you. And then Arsenal playing Tottenham. You think Tottenham will see them win the league as well? And then but us last game of the season, you think Arsenal are going to be supporting Tottenham? Yes, they will, but it's just so crazy. Tottenham will be like, okay, we're in the Champions League. We don't want them to win. They're going to down the tool. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of games and a lot of games that can be played maliciously in terms of just let them win or whatever. So it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting.
Quickly, how do you feel about the Arsenal game? Because that's where I think a lot of Arsenal fans have bookmarked it. Like, this is a day where if we get the win, then we're on the way. Like, how you feeling about that game? Just thinking forward.
Do you know what it is? There's certain teams, where you just play them and they're just like little bro. Yeah. That's how we look at Arsenal. Arsenal could be in any type of form, but when it comes to the crunch, when the rubber touches the road, City we just become another beast. And we've been in these type of situations before, and it's just like, okay, cool. This is the type of games that we live for, and we'll just take it to them. So yes, I'm gonna be worried. It's Arsenal. They're a very good team. They're on a good roll. But I just think if we play to our best of our abilities, we'll beat Arsenal. Like, we play them 10 times, we'll beat them 9 times, probably draw 1. We might lose 1, but more time we're gonna beat them. So I'm not worried. We're at home. I think the fans are gonna, make a lot of noise that game. I think everyone's gonna be up for it. Foden's balling out, and then you're gonna Foden against Saka. So it's gonna be very interesting. But I think, like I said, right at the beginning of the podcast, an hour and probably 30 minutes ago, I said, like, the next 2 weeks is gonna be very pivotal. So if we can get 4 points, hopefully 6, that would be great. 6 points would be great. But if we can get 4 points out of that, I'll take it and on to the next, man.
Yeah, a lot of exciting games coming up. As you mentioned, rivals playing each other, but it's also teams like Villa, Spurs, that are also trying to secure top 4 themselves as well. So I would say within like the top 6, top 8, everyone has a say in terms of where their rivals end, but also where they end up as well in the final standing.
I think Arsenal got the hardest running because they've got a game where it's not penciled in yet against Chelsea. So again, we've seen Chelsea against the big teams. The only big team that's actually smashed them is Liverpool. But even at the beginning of the season, it's like they've got this game plan where they're like, we'll sit back and we'll get you on the counter-attack. And what people realize, they play into the trappers, Chelsea is sitting back, but they forget Chelsea's got quality players. So if they do transition, they can easily, they got Palmer, they got Sterling, they got Jackson, they got Enzo, they got Melo Gusto. So they've got a very good team. And Chelsea's one of those teams that against the big teams, I think they've only lost to Liverpool. That's it. Everyone else.
That's when they turn up.
Yeah.
That's the only time they turn up.
Do you know what I mean? We played them twice and we struggled against them because what they did is they played as a small team, but we forgot they've got quality, and on transition they'll kill us.
Yeah, it's true.
There's a lot of games, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. The running is going to be great.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, like you mentioned, we've done over an hour and a half, so a lot to chop about, which is obviously nice to speak to you. So Sam, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to everyone with the comments. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Sam, let the people know where to follow you, and let us know what you've got coming up soon as well.
Follow Undiluted Media _ on Insta. Follow us Undiluted Media 1 on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Big up Ozzie and the Ozzie OTF podcast. FTP podcast, my bad. Like, share, subscribe on his channel and all of that good stuff. At the moment, we haven't got nothing planned, but we'll be coming back, coming with some original content, storytelling pieces. So just watch out for that. But yeah, appreciate being on the show as always. Great chopping up with Ozzie, great discussions, great conversations. And yeah, everyone tune into the big game on Sunday. And let's go, man. City, road to the double treble. Let's go.
You got to end it shamelessly. I like it. I'm still going for that quad, that full, the Jurgen quad, as everyone likes to call it right now. So yeah, we'll see how our teams end up. But yeah, thank you, Sam, for your coming on the show. Man. Appreciate your time as always. Just got a comment here from Uncle Roz. Big up Ozzie, bro. Big up yourself, Uncle Roz. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, big game ahead. I think we'll be talking about it for weeks, because this is a monumental game for the title race altogether. So let's see how it ends up. I won't wish you too much good luck, but yeah, let's hope it's a good game. And yeah, let's see where the season unfolds.
Best of the best, man. Come on.
Exactly. But as always, guys, take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak to you all very, very soon. Goodbye.